Hello everyone, welcome to another video talking geeky stuff, and we are back with the 80s again. Yes, I love the 80s. I'm an 80s boy and I miss the 80s. So, talking about 80s cinema. My previous video was focused on 80s action movies, but these films here are kind of like my coming of age movies. For example, let's get this animation rolling. So as you can see, these are my coming of age films. Some of the greatest movies of that time, or any time to be honest. Where to start? I mean, there's a lot of, you got your classics like Goonies, Gremlins, of course, Ghostbusters. Of course, I didn't add Back to the Future on it because I did a trilogy, greatest trilogy video a few weeks ago. So these are some of the movies that I grew up with, and you can still watch them today, and they are still amazing. To be honest with you, they probably are better than before, considering some of the crap we're getting today. Don't get me wrong, there is a good few 80s movies that I used to love and hasn't really stand the test of time. But the movies I'm showing here have stand the test of time, and to be honest, probably got better with age. I think it's just the current cinema, really. We getting so many remakes. A lot of movies trying to incorporate a lot of political woke agendas in there, and the focus has moved over there instead of just good old-fashioned entertainment. And that's the whole point. These films were entertaining, fun, entertaining. You didn't really need to think about, especially as a young kid growing up, to a teenager and so on. And of course, speaking about being a teenager, you had see John Hughes, one of the greatest directors of that kind of coming of age genre. And these are the trilogies that I like. Of course, Weird Science was, in my opinion, is my favorite John Hughes movie, because as a teenager, it kind of spoke to me a little bit. I watched it a couple of years after, or maybe a year or so after release. I think I watched it about 88 or 89 sort of thing. And it's kind of like almost like a teenage boy's wet dream, you're trying to build a sexy woman. Back then what did I have? Commodore 64 and I think my brother had an Amstrad computer, and my friend had a Spectrum. We were trying to replicate the film, trying to make a woman out of it. So all the young teenage fantasies and so on. And of course, you got Ferris Bueller's Days Off. How many times have we all tried to, in the UK we call it bunk off school. Trying to, take an unofficial day off school. We all tried our ways. I was successful sometimes. Sometimes I got caught. But that's the fun about growing up, right? And then my personal favourite of Gene Wilder and the Richard Pryor film is See No Evil, Hear No Evil. My God, when I first saw that, it made me laugh out loud so much. It was the funniest film, one of the funniest films I've ever seen. It's their best film in my opinion. Then you got films like The Goonies, of course. It kind of spoke to you pre-teen, I suppose, just before you're a teenager, around 11 to 12, maybe even 13-year-old, where you wanted to go on an adventure, pirates, squashbuckling, so that kind of spoke to me that way. Then, of course, as I got a little bit older, Monster Squad came in. We were Lost Boys. You kind of got a bit more older, so you wanted to go, wow, this is so cool. So you've done your pirate chasing and Goonies. Now you want to go into a bit more hardcore, like monster hunting or something like that, and vampire hunting, or even things like Gremlins, for example, stuff like that. There is an 80s film here that is very underlooked, is Harry and the Hendersons. I remember watching that in the cinema back in 87, I think, and in the UK it was called Bigfoot and the Hendersons. And that is one of my favourite of all time 80s films, because, I don't know, it's just a good all-round happy movie. Special effects are great by Rick Baker. Shame about the actor dying. The same actor who did, Inside the Suit of Predator, Kevin Peter Hall, if I remember it correctly. Shame that he died. That was underrated film. I mean, I won't say it's underrated. I mean, people remember it and adore it, of course, but it wasn't like as famous as your Goonies or Ghostbusters. And as for the director, William Deere, I don't think he'd done anything after that. I need to check on that, just double check, but fantastic movie. Then of course you got comedies like Spaceballs and Three Amigos. They were funny, especially Spaceballs. It's like just it's making fun out of Star Wars. And who can forget Trains, Planes and Automobile? That's when I got introduced to John Candy, another great comedian, comedy actor. Another shame that he died as well. And of course, some honourable mentions. Here's some of three of the animated cartoons that I used to love back in the day. An American Tale, saw that in cinema. So I saw all three of them in cinema. And I wasn't, and still am not, the biggest Disney fan, but Oliver and Company had something special. Don't know, I found it special. I really liked it. I'm a big fan of Don Bluth films, An American Tale, Old Dogs Go to Heaven, classics. Then of course you got Breakfast Club, which, don't get me wrong, not as good as the other three I mentioned. It's still a really good John Hughes movie. Stand By Me, of course, another great coming of age with the late great River Phoenix. And another, Flight of the Navigator, which, you know what? Some of you may have an eagle eye notice that I didn't put in E.T. The funny thing was, I never liked E.T. that much. I mean, I didn't mind it. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as, like the films of this showcase. I tried watching it again for the anniversary a few years ago. Still didn't like it. I watched it again, and it got better a little bit, but I just didn't think it was that amazing. I thought it was okay, and for some bizarre reason, I actually prefer Flight of the Navigator. Watched that in cinema as well, and you watch it now, it's fun. No, nothing special, but I suppose it's just nostalgic speaking. I really like that. And there's a nice little punchline where someone from a gas station saying that he just had to call home. So like a nice little pun to E.T. So yeah, these are some of my 80s movies, cinema, that I grew up with. Kind of like my coming of age films. So let me know. What did you think about these films? Have you seen them? Which ones have you seen? Which one do you like? Do you agree with me? Please give me a like if you like this video. And please consider subscribing to hear me talk more about talking geeky stuff. Well, anyway, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. And please stay safe. Until next time, goodbye.
I'll be back.